In hypnosis, he proved that this guy was an aviator. In the Second World War, and his plane was shot down, he was fatally injured and then died in the fall with all that. This man panics the plane. In other words, there is a series of objective tests that we still lack many scientific bases, but they do tell you that reincarnation is something that is feasible and is possible. Today in Eternal Life Answers from Science, we will answer a selection among the thousands of questions we have received through social networks.
If souls are reincarnated in another body, how is it understood that the patient's own experiences at death have been reunited with loved ones?
It is frequent. Then the patients who present a near-death experience tell us that they have an enchantment with loved ones with whom they were indeed very united, familiar, friends, even pets. There are described cases of pets. It is clear that for a time after the final physical death, therefore, supraconsciousness remains for a time in what is called the astral plane. When he reincarnates again, this is an aspect that logically I, with my view, from the point of view of the scientific method, I have no experience. I've said from the beginning that I'm neither obvious nor average. What I can assure you is that they often contact relatives and loved ones, which means that they are not yet reincarnated, and that the time between physical death and the new reincarnation is a matter that I do not know,
Is there some field of quantum mechanics that explains reincarnation?
Quantum mechanics, no. Quantum mechanics, all it tells you is that it fully justifies you that when you die, that your human three-dimensional situation disappears, but that you have something inside, that it is a subtle energy, that this is what quantum mechanics shows you, that it leaves the body and lasts. The body undergoes a transformation, we burn it, it rots, etc. And you return everything, not an atom is lost to the universe. But your true identity, which is a subtle energy, it comes out and goes away. Now, when you reincarnate again, and in relation to reincarnation, quantum mechanics can't tell you anything.
So, when you answer that you do believe in reincarnation, what is your basis for giving this answer?
I rely first on the work of serious people who have objectified it. You know them, Brian Weiss, Jan Stevenson. The deep hypnosis of people really come to discover the cases that we have of children who move, who want to go to a country where they have never been, and they go there, and they said that there is objective proven data. Here there was a bakery, here there was a hardware store 200 years ago, and then they look at it at the city hall, and it's true. And these children suddenly begin to speak the language of that country where they have never been. In other words, there are objective data, lacerations. For example, people who have a physical stigma around their neck and are told in hypnosis that these people took them apart. Another person who panics and doesn't want to get on a plane. In a hypnosis, he proved that this guy was an aviator. In the Second World War, and they shot down the plane, it was fatal, and he died then in the fall with all that. This man panics on the plane. That is to say that there is a series of tests, to some extent objectives, that we still lack many scientific bases, but they do tell you that reincarnation is something that is feasible and is possible. So, now, quantum mechanics doesn't show it to you, but we cannot go deeper here. We are neither obvious nor mediums, nor do we have capacity. We are scientists. We know by scientism that there are other people who have researched it and show objective evidence that it is true, but we have no experience of this.
Neurosurgeons who operate brains on awake people have explained that there are people who describe phenomena similar to near-death experiences, but who are not actually in cardiorespiratory arrest and continue to have brain activity. How do you explain this?
This phenomenon is called dissociation, and it is true. By surgically targeting certain areas of the brain, epileptic seizures, even dissociative seizures, can be induced even with autovision. Self-vision is that they, from the outside, see their body. This is related to certain areas, and it is feasible to do it in surgery, in neurosurgery, brain surgery, keeping the patient awake to be able to see the limits, for example, of surgical approach and not condition serious neurological sequelae. Now, it's just a phenomenon of dissociation, even with self-vision, but it doesn't have at all the extensive and clear and well-defined history that a near-death experience has. They are nothing alike, only the phenomenon of dissociation.
According to your experience after life, do we continue to have the practical and theoretical knowledge acquired during life?
It is necessary to differentiate between three fundamental concepts, which are consciousness, soul, and spirit. Consciousness is local or neural consciousness. It is consciousness due to the metabolic activity of our neurons. Proof of this is that when we inhibit the neurons, our consciousness disappears when we sleep in an anesthesia. At the other end is supraconsciousness or spirit, which is our true identity, that we know very well from near-death experiences, that it is eternal and that it has continuity after physical death. And in the middle we have, some call it soul, others call it subconscious. We, when we die, take with us, as is logical, supraconsciousness, which is eternal, and we get along the story of our life, what we have done in the course of our three-dimensional situation. It is what Eastern philosophies call karma. That is, the cause-effect relationship of all our actions and knowledge. And this is what conditions our evolution. As the Jesuit Teilhard de Chardin described very well, from going from the alpha point to the omega point, that is, from being full of impurities to a situation of sanctity, of enlightenment, of Buddhahood, that then we have finished the cycles of samsara, of birth, death, and reincarnation.
If each person has a soul, how do you explain that there are more and more human beings in the world?
It's that one thing, I guess it refers to supraconsciousnesses. There are many supraconsciousnesses. Each person, each supraconsciousness that passes into the third dimensional situation manages or generates a soul. This is indisputable. How many lives are there? But I have always wondered, can we think that in a universe that is infinite, is it just us? So much space lost. Please, surely there are thousands and thousands of other lives that we have not yet been able to detect because of the distances, which are also supraconsciousnesses that are an expression of primary consciousness, of primary intelligence. How many can there be? Infinite. There can be supraconsciousnesses. They are manifestations of the first consciousness, which is infinite, and there are certainly many other planets. In other words, we don't have to limit ourselves or worry about the number of people there. It can be infinite, that.
Are the stars part of superconsciousness?
No, stars are a mass of matter that inside has hydrogen, helium, deuterium, lithium, and inside it there is a radioactive reaction that causes light and heat. Over time, what is called heat death will occur. Every star will eventually disappear. When it has consumed all the radioactive substance, it will collapse and become a red giant, to a white dwarf, and finally either a neutron star or a black hole. For example, in our galaxy, at the center of our galaxy, there is an immense black hole that has the ability to absorb even light. It takes it all, it takes it all, it absorbs it all. This is the evolution of all stars. That is why the universe today is accepted to have an origin, 13,780 million years ago in the Big Bang, and it will have an end, which is thermal death by collapsing stars. This is the great argument that proves the existence of a first consciousness, of an intelligent designer, of a first consciousness, which is totally against it, of the aspect or vision of the materialistic scientific method. The materialist cannot accept that the universe has an origin, because if it has an origin, it means that someone did it. Instead, it is shown we have strong evidence that the universe has an origin. And if there is an origin, as Parmenides said, from absolute nothingness, nothing can be done. For something to appear from absolute nothing, it must be created. And this can only be done by an infinite being, which is the first consciousness. It has a beginning, which proves that there is an intelligent designer, and it will end with thermal death, as all evolution has.
Is there life? Extraterrestrial?
We could not prove it, but by logic and common sense, the infinite universe is so immensely big, which is absurd to think that only exists on Earth, on this tiny planet, compared to the whole universe, that life exists. For life to occur, a number of circumstances are required. The first thing that is required is an anthropic principle. That is, that there is an appropriate environment for life to develop. And secondly, life appeared on our planet 4 billion years ago. We have a series of tests with fossil tracking, with probability studies, with the exactness that exists in life, that it is impossible that by chance, done by chance, has occurred. There are times when it is seen that there is the intervention of an external cause, what is called external or superior causation, which from the outside influence the appearance and evolution of our life.
Can you have a near-death experience while being conscious?
Totally. Obviously, we value and study near-death experiences in clinically dead patients, which are the ones we treat, the ones I treat as a surgeon. But there are near-death experiences, conscious. When do they occur? Fundamentally, the mechanism occurs. It is meditation. With meditation techniques, highly evolved and with great experience, there comes a time when you can contact the supraconsciousness. It is entered through from the third eye to the astral plane and has the same manifestations that patients with a near-death experience refer to us. In the Middle East, highly evolved lamas are patients who very often enter near-death experiences consciously. There is another form of conscious near-death experience, which is what is called shared. In other words, people who are next to a patient who is dying or clinically dead, who have a near-death experience, and a loved one who is very close to him, there are cases described that have also experienced the near-death experience. In conclusion, we can have near-death experiences, which is a manifestation of our supraconsciousness, both unconsciously, with the patients we diagnose as clinically dead, and with the conscious patients consciously.
Thank you for listening to us in this chapter of Eternal Life, Answers from Science, with Dr. Manuel Sans Segarra. If you have more questions, you can post a comment on this video, and our team will review